"I'm fine" is a strange kind of armor. Not the heavy kind, not the kind you can see. It's the kind that looks like a smile, sounds like a laugh. Texts back, "I'm good," with an exclamation point, from a dark room. Someone asks how you're doing, and in that half second before you answer, something happens. A tiny calculation. Not math, something older. A scan. Can this person hold what I'm actually carrying? Will they know what to do with it? Or will I end up managing their reaction to my pain, on top of the pain itself? So you choose the easy word, the safe word, the word that ends the conversation before it starts. Fine. But here's the paradox nobody warns you about. The longer you say, "I'm fine," the further you get from the real answer. Not because you're lying to them, but because you start believing your own translation. And one day, you realize you don't even know what's underneath it anymore. This video isn't here to tell you to stop saying it. This video is here to show you what those two words have been quietly costing you, and where they came from in the first place. Monday morning. Coffee's not even ready. Someone in the office kitchen says, "Hey, how was your weekend?" And you don't think. You just perform. "Oh, it was good. Pretty chill." Maybe your weekend was spent lying in bed scrolling through nothing, feeling a weight you can't explain. Maybe you cried in the shower on Saturday and don't even know why. Maybe you sat in your parked car for 10 minutes before walking into the grocery store because being around people felt like work. But you say, "Pretty chill." And the conversation moves on. And so do you, carrying everything you didn't say. James Pennebaker, a psychologist at the University of Texas at Austin, spent decades studying what happens inside people who hold their inner world in silence. His research revealed something striking. Suppressing emotional experience isn't passive. It requires constant cognitive effort. Your brain is working full-time to keep the lid on. Think of it this way. It's not like putting something in a drawer. It's like holding a door shut while something on the other side keeps pushing. You're not resting. You're managing. Every hour. Every interaction. And the cruelest part? At some point, it stops being a choice. It becomes automatic. Like a reflex. You don't decide whether to tell the truth anymore. You just don't know another way to answer. Let me ask you something. When was the last time someone asked how you were, and you gave a real answer? Not fine, not tired, not busy. A real one. One that actually matched what was happening inside you. There's a concept in psychology called emotional granularity. The ability to put precise language to what you feel. Not just bad or off, but disappointed, unmoored, overlooked, hollow, restless in a way that has nothing to do with sleep. People who default to "I'm fine" often lose this ability, not because they stop feeling, but because a translator has installed itself between the feeling and the word. And that translator only works in one direction, outward. You're fluent in reading other people. You notice when your coworker is burned out before they say it. You catch the micro pause in your mom's voice when she says everything's okay. You hear the thing your friend isn't saying under the thing they are saying. But your own feelings? Those get one word. Fine. Maybe two. A little tired. Maybe a shrug that says more than you intended, but you hope nobody notices. Psychologist and neuroscientist Lisa Feldman Barrett, one of the most cited scientists in the world, writes that the brain doesn't simply have emotions, it constructs them. And to construct them, it needs language. Without the right words, a feeling stays blurry, like a shape in fog. You know something is there, but you can't name it. And what you can't name, you can't process. What you can't process, you carry. So you call it fine. Not because it is, because you ran out of words for yourself a long time ago. Here's something that probably happened so slowly you didn't even notice it. At some point, a system formed around you. You became the person who handles things, the one people lean on, the one who holds it together when everything else is falling apart. Not because you're that strong, but because you never once showed that you weren't. You became a function, not a person with needs, a role. The reliable one, the stable one, the one who's always okay. Think about the last time you were in a group and something went wrong. Who did everyone look at? Who made the plan? Who calmed the room? And who, after it was all handled, went home and sat in silence with no one asking how they were doing? Why is it so terrifying to step out of that role? What would actually happen if you said, "I'm not okay"? Maybe nothing. And that's the scariest answer of all, because it would mean the people around you don't have a container for your pain, that the system only works if you keep performing. In American culture especially, there's a deep reverence for self-reliance. Pull yourself up. Figure it out. Don't be a burden. We celebrate people who never crack. We call it grit. We call it resilience. We put it on motivational posters and LinkedIn bios and eulogies, but nobody talks about the cost of never cracking. Because the person who never cracks is often the person who never gets asked how they're really doing. The armor works so well that people stop looking for what's underneath. They stop asking, not because they don't care, but because you've trained them not to. And here's the irony that cuts deepest. You're not just saying, "I'm fine." You believe it. Because if you're not fine, if you admit that even to yourself, then the whole structure you've built your identity on starts to crack. And you didn't sign up for that. You can fool your words. You can't fool your body. You say, "I'm fine," and your jaw is clenched so tight you don't notice until it aches. Your shoulders live somewhere near your ears. You scroll through your phone at 1 a.m., not looking for anything, just avoiding the silence, because silence is where the feelings are. You wake up after 8 hours of sleep and feel like you've carried furniture all night. Or maybe it's subtler. You start getting sick. Not dramatically, not in any way a doctor can name. Just more often. Headaches that come from nowhere. A tightness in your chest that shows up at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday for no reason at all. A back that won't stop hurting no matter how many stretches you try. Bessel van der Kolk, a psychiatrist who has spent over 30 years working with trauma survivors, titled his book, "The Body Keeps the Score." The idea behind it is almost uncomfortably simple. What doesn't get expressed in words gets expressed in the body. Suppressed emotions don't vanish. They settle. In your muscles, in your breathing pattern, in the way you fall asleep and the way you don't. You think "fine" is a harmless word. 2 syllables. 1 second. But every time you say it instead of the truth, you're rerouting the real answer. Not outward, inward. Not into the conversation. Into your spine. Into your chest. Into the 1 a.m. scroll that never ends. This is the part nobody says out loud. The part that hurts the most and makes the least noise. When you spend years saying, "I'm fine," you're not just concealing pain. You're building distance, quietly, invisibly, between yourself and every person in your life. You can sit at Thanksgiving dinner surrounded by family and feel like you're watching the scene through glass. You can be in a group chat that never stops pinging and feel like no one in it knows you. You can have someone say, "I love you," and feel the words land on the mask, not on you. Not because they're bad people, but because they know the version of you that's fine. And the real you is somewhere behind that, getting quieter every year. And the longer the gap grows, the harder the bridge becomes. Because now it's not just about opening up. It's about explaining years of silence. It's about saying, "I've been pretending," to people who thought they knew you. And that feels like a betrayal of them and of the version of you they counted on. John Cacioppo, a social neuroscientist at the University of Chicago, dedicated his career to studying loneliness. Not isolation, but loneliness. The difference matters. You can be isolated and at peace. And you can be surrounded and still profoundly lonely. His research found that this kind of loneliness, the subjective feeling that you're not truly seen, impacts health more severely than smoking or obesity. That's not a metaphor. That's data from peer-reviewed studies. And the most painful part isn't when nobody asks how you are. It's when they do ask, and you still say, "I'm fine." Because the truth feels more dangerous than the loneliness. But here's what I need you to hear. And I need you to hear it without the filter you usually put on. You didn't become this way because something is wrong with you. You became this way because somewhere, a long time ago, it was the smartest thing you could do. Go back. Not to a specific memory, just to the feeling. Somewhere in childhood, in your family, at school, in the first relationships that shaped you before you had the language to understand what was happening. You learned one thing, and you learned it not from a lesson, but from a look, a silence, a shift in the room. Your real feelings are inconvenient. Maybe your parents were fighting, and there was no room for your sadness on top of theirs. So you became small. Maybe your household ran on the rule that emotions were weakness, that you should toughen up before you even understood what you were toughening against. Maybe you cried in front of someone once and saw their face close like a door. Maybe you learned that the kids who showed too much got laughed at, left out, shut down. So you showed less, and then nothing at all. And you did what any intelligent child does in an environment that doesn't have space for them. You adapted. You learned to read the room before you read yourself. You learned to be easy, low maintenance, fine. The psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott called this the false self, a version of you that forms not from inner truth, but from the need to comply. Not from who you are, but from what the world required you to be. And here's the thing Winnicott understood. This isn't weakness. It's not a flaw. It's adaptation. A brilliant, resourceful, life-saving adaptation of a small person who had no other option. "I'm fine" was never a lie. It was a survival strategy. And it worked. It kept you safe when safety wasn't guaranteed. The problem isn't that you built this armor. The problem is that you grew up. And the armor didn't grow with you. It's still the same size it was when you were small. And now it's not protecting you anymore. It's compressing you. And it would be dishonest to tell you, just stop. Just be vulnerable. Just open up. Because this adaptation cost you. And it's still costing you. Every day. In ways you might not even recognize anymore. It costs you intimacy. And I don't mean romance. I mean the kind of closeness where someone truly sees you. Picture this. Someone you love leans in and says, "You can tell me anything." And you feel your chest tighten, not with emotion, with alarm. Because vulnerability isn't warmth to you, it's exposure. And you've spent your whole life making sure nobody gets behind the glass. It costs you energy, not the kind that sleep fixes, the kind that comes from running two versions of yourself at all times, the one the world sees and the one you live inside. That's a full-time job with no weekends, no PTO, no performance review, just silent, thankless maintenance. And it costs you self-knowledge, because if you've been answering fine for years, not just to others, but to yourself, at some point you genuinely stop knowing how you actually are. You lose access to your own dashboard. The signal is still there, but you've turned the volume so far down you can't read it anymore. Brené Brown, a research professor at the University of Houston, who has spent over 2 decades studying vulnerability and shame, puts it in a way that's hard to unhear. You cannot selectively numb emotions. When you numb pain, you numb joy. When you mute sadness, you mute aliveness. The dial doesn't work on individual channels. It works on everything at once. And that's why people who are always fine often describe their inner state not as pain, but as numbness. Not as hurting, but as nothing. A flat line where there used to be a pulse. You're not broken, but you're running on low signal. And you've been running that way so long, you forgot what full reception feels like. So what now? The solution isn't to tear the mask off in front of everyone tomorrow. That's not healing. That's flooding. And your system has been in conservation mode for too long to survive a flood. The solution is smaller, quieter, and more powerful than it sounds. Stop telling the lie to yourself. You don't have to open up to the world, but you need at least one place, one person, one journal, one quiet 2 a.m. moment with your own thoughts, where fine is not accepted as an answer, where you don't have to perform, where the mask can come off, even if your hands shake when you take it off. And here are 3 small truths that can begin to move this system. Not overnight, not with a bang. Quietly. 1. Replace "I'm fine" with "I don't know how I am." That's not weakness. That's the most precise thing you've said in years. Sometimes the bravest sentence in the English language is 5 words long. I'm not sure right now. 2. Start noticing the moment. Not changing it, just noticing it. The half second before you answer. The flicker where the truth almost surfaces and then gets swallowed. Just watch it happen. Don't judge it. Awareness is already movement. It's the first crack in a wall that's been sealed for years. 3. Let yourself be inconvenient. Once. With one person. Not a speech. Not a confession. Just one moment where you choose honesty over efficiency. Where instead of "I'm good," you say, "Actually, I'm having a hard time." And then sit with whatever comes next. Because real connection doesn't start with "I'm fine." It starts with the terrifying, beautiful, human act of being seen. This isn't about becoming weak. This is about no longer confusing strength with silence. Because silence isn't strength. Silence is just silence. And you've been quiet long enough. You've been carrying this for a long time. Maybe so long that the weight doesn't feel like weight anymore. It just feels like you. But it's not you. It's a habit. a pattern, a response you learned before you were old enough to know you were learning it. And habits can change. Not fast, not painlessly, but they can. Because the fact that you're still here, watching this, means some part of you already knows that fine isn't the truth. And that part has been waiting for permission to say so. So here it is. You don't have to be strong every day. You don't have to package your pain in a way that's convenient for everyone around you. You don't have to earn the right to your own feelings. They were yours before anyone taught you to hide them. They're still yours now. Wisdom isn't when you stop feeling. Wisdom is when you stop pretending you don't. And maybe next time someone asks, "How are you?" you won't say, "Fine." Maybe you'll say the truth. Or maybe you'll just pause, honestly, and let the silence be real instead of performed. Because even an honest silence is closer to you than 100 comfortable lies. Remember what I said at the beginning? I'm fine is a strange kind of armor. You built it to protect yourself. And it did. For a while. But armor that you can never take off isn't protection. It's a cage. And the door was never locked. If something in this video felt familiar, if there was a moment where you stopped and thought, "That's me," I want you to know, you're not the only one. This channel is a space for people who feel more than they show. For people who need to hear, at least sometimes, you're seen. Even behind the armor. Even when you're silent. If this meant something to you, consider subscribing. Not for a number. So that this space can keep existing for the next person who needs it at 2 a.m. And if you're willing, leave a comment. But not about the video. About you. How are you? Right now? Not fine. The real answer. Because your words might be the first thing someone else reads that makes them feel less alone. And that matters more than you know. Don't say, "I'm fine." Not here. Not anymore.